Welcome back to Against My Better Judgment, the podcast where two friends,
I'm Tamara Golden.
and I'm Dannelle Whiteside, tell the truth, share the lessons, and laugh about the moments that we knew better, but did it anyway. Each week, we share real stories from our lives about the time that life surprised us, stretched us, or straight up humbled us, and the lessons that we learned along the way.
And this season, we're titling it That Time When. Today's episode is That Time When Dannelle's grandmama left her some instructions.
Yep.
Wow. But before we get to that, Dannelle, how was your week?
It was pretty good. I have been kind of in my music bag.
All right.
I was listening to or trying to find, like you wake up in the morning, you have a song on your heart. Mm-hmm. So that happened. And I was like, oh, let me go listen to that song. So it was a song by Kendra, the Family Soul. It's called What I've Learned. So I went on iTunes to try to find it and I couldn't find it. The whole album was gone. And I used to wear that album out all day, every day. So anyway, sent them a message to try to figure out sent them a message on social media.
This was really on your heart.
Yeah, because I found it on YouTube, but it's not the same.
You did a lot. All this, when you woke up? I mean...
within the first couple of hours of my day is how I did it. Right. So anyway, I just had to listen to the album on YouTube. And then I found a Tiny Desk about Ryan Leslie.
Okay.
And, if you're familiar with Ryan Leslie, he's a R&B singer, really popular in the mid to late 2000s. And his Tiny Desk it just reminded me of how amazing his voice is. And I just was like, dang, so he and Cassie, Diddy's Cassie,
okay,
used to date. And actually Diddy took her from Ryan Leslie, if you could say that, they stopped dating because she ended up dating Diddy. And then did he have a deal with Diddy? Was he on his label? He wasn't on his label, but Diddy also, I guess, made it hard for him to continue in the industry. And so after that, his career kind of just didn't go anywhere after
blacklisted
that.
Him?
Yeah. So I just feel like it was a shame. But I also feel like he's probably sitting back now yeah, see what happened when you mess with Ryan Leslie.
Well, maybe. But he might be sitting back and Diddy pulls up a chair right in front of him. So,
probably not. So what's your week been like?
Pretty decent week. Had a friend who had a birthday, and birthdays are, you're this type of person. Birthdays are meant to be celebrated. I've had one birthday party my entire life, and that's when serious? I turned 45. One of my dear friends threw a surprise party for me, and I like celebrating people's birthdays, but mine comes 11 days after Christmas. It's Epiphany, January the 6th, and so it's rarely a big deal, but I felt special, at least when I turned 45. But in any event, celebrated a friend, learned something new, that there's a thing called a plant bar.
What do they do at said plant bar?
Well, at the plant bar, you pick out a plant and you pick out the dirt. You pick out your pot, and that's where it stops. Because mind you, we were just walking around downtown and we saw this place. It looked like a typical boutique that sold clothes.
So y'all didn't plan to go to this
plant
bar?
No.
Okay.
And then while there, come to find out, the lady's a barista, so you can get coffee, all this stuff. So anyway, so I'm like, why is this table in the middle? She's like, oh, it's our plant bar. Groups of 4 or more, you need a reservation. Otherwise, y'all can sit down and do it. I was like, oh, okay, well, we're going to pass today. So, but I put a pin in it. I'm interested to see, because it has to be more than picking out a plant and putting it in the pot. Surely you're going to decorate the plant. You're going to have some different color sand or something to make it pretty. Something has to happen. Stay tuned.
Sound like you went to your average nursery at Home Depot, Joe's Flower Shop.
See what I mean?
And then somebody just put a coffee shop in there. Rude. People really just make anything a business.
Rude. You see this box? This is you. You are so in the box. I think it was creative, and I thought it was a good idea, and I think you're rude.
Listen.
But I had a good, it was good. It was fun. It was.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did. So let's get to this. That time when Dannelle's grandmama left her some instructions. Tell me about these instructions.
Okay, so you know how like you're a little kid and like you have your grandparents and you have your parents and like they, as a child and even as a teenager, the family business, they handle the family business, like the grown-ups handle the family business. Do you mean a business
as in there's a family business, or do you mean like paying the bills,
paying the bills, planning the family reunions?
Oh, okay. Life business.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I got you.
Well, at some point, as life does, like you roll up to be expected to contribute to the family business.
It's a promotion.
And so are you ready for that when it happens? Do you decide, oh, that's not my responsibility? Or do you just so that's what we're going to talk about today.
All right.
So my grandmother passed away in December at 100 years old. Love her. She's an amazing person. Miss her every day. And about 10 or so years before she passed away, I went to visit her, and I'm an attorney. So, she pulls out her will. She's like, hey, Dannelle, I just want you to look over it. And so I read through it, and there were some name changes. Like, for instance, I was Dannelle Walker, my maiden name. I was like, well, change to Whiteside. And then she had, the part where you designate your executor in there. It was her brother, Ben, her older brother, and then her brother, Will, her younger brother, as the backup. So her Ben was the executor, and she designated Will as the backup.
Wait a minute. Did you feel some kind of way reading what you get?
No, because I'm not the type that's like waiting somebody to die to get rich.
Yeah, okay. I'm like, that would have been a little strange. Should you, I'd be like, girl, I don't want to read that.
Well, I get it. There could be it could be awkward if you think about it that way. Yeah. But I just was like, she wanted to talk about it. And, at this point she was like in her early 90s or late 80s. So it is an eventuality the older you get. And so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll read it for you. So I made I helped her, told her what she needed to do. And I was like, at that point that she asked me to read it, her her brother, Ben, her older brother, had passed away.
Okay.
So I was like, you need to put Uncle Will as the primary, and then who would you designate as your backup? And so she was like, well, I guess it would be you. And I was like, okay, I'm like, okay.
She skipped all these people in between.
Yes, she did. I mean,
but I couldn't think of a better person.
Yeah, I mean, there's, we ain't gonna go there, but I guess she decided that she felt like, I could do the job. So anyway, but I kind of, because Uncle Will was there and her younger brother, I was like, it's not gonna be me. It's just kind of like oh, sure, just put my name down, but I'm probably not gonna ever have to do this, So then I have literally forgotten that, we had this conversation, or, that she asked me to do that. I literally just kind of put it in the back of my mind, as I do a lot of things, I consider myself a vault. So if you tell me something, I'm just gonna file it away in the things that I don't think about again. So, so anyway, when she passed away, my mom gets the will, and then she opens it, and we were reading through there, and I look at the designation of executor. Well, my Uncle Will passed away the year before my grandmother died. And so then I'm like, oh, that's me. I'm the executor. And so it was just wow. I felt honored, of course, then I thought back to the moments that we had talked about it. And, I felt honored that she would trust me to carry out her wishes. But it kind of felt or it has felt since everybody else kind of gets to grieve and tie their grief in a nice little bow, but I'm still doing the work of carrying out her wishes. And, it's just something that is, no one prepares you for, so I guess I'm bringing up this conversation to just where we are in our lives, there is a certain point where you are going to have to pick up the mantle and be the person that, carries out someone's final wishes, or, cares for an aging loved one. Could be your parents, could be your, if you have aunts and uncles who don't have children or don't have anyone to care for them. Like, the more time you spend on this earth, you got next, and you got to be prepared to do that.
What about being the executor? Like, what was the thing that just tripped you out that you were not expecting, or a task that you had to do that you didn't know if you were even up for it?
Well, it's so far it hasn't been a task that I have had to do that I'm not up for. The things that I've discovered some things about other people through the process. Because I'm her executor, I have her checkbook ledger, and I can see, times that she perhaps gave someone money. I've never shared that. Like, I've not shared that with anyone. Like, again, I'm a vault. So, things that people tell you about what they did for her, but then you're like, that ain't what this checkbook is.
Is there stuff you wish you didn't know?
Maybe. I think less of that and more confirming what I had suspected.
Okay. And I guess in going through this process, have you understood or have a realization of what would make a good executor? And if so, can you share some of those
I
with
think,
us?
as the executor, number one, you need to follow the four corners of the document. So if it says so-and-so is supposed to get this, that is what needs to happen. And you can't listen to other people telling you, well, you should just go on ahead and give such and such that. It's like, no, she wanted it to happen this way. You have to have the utmost fidelity in carrying out what someone wanted to happen. And you have to make sure that you are not listening to perhaps somebody else who might have a, different opinion of how you go about it. As soon as we read it, I hired an attorney, and we're going through the probate process, and that process will be, depending on what your state laws are, it's at least 6 months that the state can close. So another thing I've learned is that I'm putting everything in trust for my kids, because trust avoids the probate. So
but there is a cost associated with trust.
I mean, the only cost is setting it up.
Okay.
And then after that, there are certain things that you have to do, in the trust to pull the trust together.
Right.
But that is more time intensive on me to set it up than it is for you to carry it out. So if, she, for instance, we just sold her house. So in order for the house to sell, I had to get permission from the court to sell it. Before I got permission from the court, I had to get permission from her children to sell it, then submit the court that they had given permission.
What if one person says no?
Then that's how you always have the disputes, and that's how probate drags out for months and months. Thankfully, everything is gone smoothly, as smoothly as it possibly can, but it's just a process, And so if she had put everything in trust, then I would have just been able to do it without having to seek court approval, because at every stage of dispensing of property, I have to get approval from the heirs and approval from the court.
Okay.
And so if it were in trust, I wouldn't have to do that.
So I think also what I'm hearing is what would make a good executor, if I'm trying to decide who's going to be my executor, would be someone that you for real, I guess, really, really trust.
Absolutely. Because they got to know all your business. They've got to know your finances. They're going to have access to your accounts. They're going to get money's going to flow through their hands, and you have to trust that they're going to do what they're supposed to do with that money. And, there's just all sorts of cases, if you remember in law school, property law, where people have done other things with the money, and then you have to be back in court. And so what
other traits have you learned that a good executor should have?
patience, but also the ability to communicate, because I have to keep the heirs informed at every stage of the process. I have to reach out to them and notify them of the next step, and here's what I need from you. So just the ability to communicate and be transparent,
some gumption to
because sometimes we got to have a conversation like, hey, so-and-so didn't agree with this. So what do you think? Sometimes you're negotiating and mediating, because you're dealing with relationships with people, and perhaps, a history that, in my case, a history that happened before me. Correct. That's coming into the present, and I'm having to talk to different parties, and, they may not necessarily agree with each other. And so I've got to try to get to some common ground. So being able to mediate conversations, like it's just a lot of skills. But then, I find myself sitting in this space of like, dang, that means what does that mean for me in terms of my mortality and what I need to be prepared for my kids, and making sure I have those things set up. And so, we're just at this point in life where it's getting real, and you're not the little kid at the kiddie table anymore at Thanksgiving, like you with the grown-ups. Yeah.
And the importance and significance of actually having a will. And if you don't have a will, even if it's just written on a piece of, like having something to give instructions, the easier you can make it through somewhat for the people in your life that you care about, is to have some sort of instructions and take on that responsibility of doing the hard stuff. It's exhausting.
A friend of mine, her mother passed away and earlier this year, and I was talking to her. She was like, my mom didn't tell me anything, so I was having to figure out like what she was supposed to wear, and I was just kind of guessing. And she was like, ultimately I feel like she affirmed my decision in a sign that I got, but it would have been better if I knew in advance. And then juxtapose that with my best friend. Her mom passed away a few months ago, and they knew that she was sick, and so she was able to have those conversations about, this is how I want it. She had the most beautiful burial ceremony I've ever experienced. And her daughter is able to carry out her wishes because she knows what they are. Correct. And so like the clearer you can be about those things, everybody's will grieve, and if you are clear, then they actually get to peacefully grieve, even though somebody is left to do the work of closing out, your affairs, but at least they do so without confusion. Mm-hmm. And that's honestly one of the best gifts you can give to someone as you leave this earth, is to make it clear what you want to happen when you're gone.
No, I totally get it. And I'm sure, although a sad situation, it has to be somewhat just a feeling of just admiration, honor, just a really feel good feeling to know that you were the one that she selected, even though it is understanding the work that goes into it. So totally get it.
I hope I'm making her proud.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. So totally get it.
Let's move into our next segment, our favorite segment, Against My Better Judgment. And I think you got something for us today.
Yeah. So Against My Better Judgment, I purchased a 1988 Jeep Wrangler. Now, this wasn't like a spontaneous purchase. It wasn't knee jerk. I'd been looking for a Jeep Wrangler for a long time. Mm-hmm. Not only was I looking for a Jeep Wrangler for a long time, but I needed one 88 or older because it had the square headlights. Like, I really knew what I wanted, and I found it finally. So I purchased this Jeep, and it was incredible. So first off, I purchased it, and I didn't know how to drive a stick shift. So,
oh my gosh.
One of my girlfriends...
Why would you do that?
Because I knew that I could, and I knew that I would. I was
that was a judgy question I asked
was,
you.
But that's welcome to our lives.
Yes.
So I knew that I could. I knew that if I got it, I'd learn how to drive a stick shift. Simple as that. So I bought it. One of my girlfriends, she and her family live on a farm. So she came, I don't know. Yeah, she came with me to pick it up because she had to drive it. Mm-hmm. She drove it out to Gallatin, Tennessee. We spent an entire day. It was 3 of us. Spent an entire day teaching me how to drive a stick shift on the farm.
I still can't get over the fact that you were like, I want to buy this thing that I don't know how to drive. Well, therefore, the next step for me is to buy this thing. And then the second step is learn how to drive.
Yeah.
I think in my mind, I would have learned how to drive it first.
With what?
I don't know. I would have taken a class or something. And
a stick shift class.
Because what if what if you didn't figure it out? Then what are you going to do?
Sell it.
But then you done went through all this part time of buying the stuff.
Finding it. But I wasn't worried about that.
But you were like, I'm going to get this.
Who can't learn how to? Yes. I was like, I could do it. So I spent one day learning how to drive this stick shift.
And you mastered it in one day.
One day. Now, I wouldn't say master, that's a stretch. But so another one of my girlfriends trailed me, I say from Gallatin to where I lived at the time, probably took about 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. I was making it. Shifting up, shifting down. I was making it until I got to my exit. And then it turned to stop and go traffic. The problem with a stick shift is if you're not in the right gear and you don't give it enough gas, you will die on the interstate. It happened. So, but I'm a very calm person when stuff like that happens. So I was like, okay. The only way to get this back on, to get this Jeep back on course is to go into neutral and turn it back on. So I just took the steps that you're supposed to do.
In the middle of the interstate?
Yeah, what else you have to turn the Jeep back on. So I turned it back on, started, took a deep breath, started in first gear.
But there was a car. The car was behind you.
Another car was the car that was trailing was behind me. So I did it as quickly as possible. So I did that. Well, that really wasn't the part that was against my better judgment. I enjoyed the Jeep. The problem is when the Jeep started acting up, I continued to put money into it to fix it because it was truly one of a kind. Do you remember it?
I think so. I think I might have seen it a couple of times.
It was truly
because you didn't drive it a whole lot.
I did not, and especially for the amount of money I was putting into it. So it was costing a lot of money. So one day my parents were here about 2 years ago. Like I had this thing for like over 20 years.
Wow.
About 2 years ago, my parents were here and we went somewhere and it puttered out. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. It was broken. It wouldn't have been a big deal had I not just gotten it back from the shop. So I got it fixed one more time. I traded in and I bought a different car. So against my better judgment, I guess I put way too much money into that Jeep before I got rid of it. Some would say against my better judgment, I didn't learn how to drive a stick before I purchased it. But I think I almost have a theme of just with vehicles, like against my better judgment, I didn't buy a car soon enough because, my first car was a Ford Tracer. And if you remember, a Mercury Tracer, if you remember the old Ford Escort, Mercury Tracer was its twin.
Okay. So
I had this car for forever. It was my first car. I had it my first year as an attorney. Well, 24 is a very busy highway if you're from the area. There's always accidents. It's always
worst traffic corridor in the city.
And it's
terrible.
Always somebody making you late. Mm-hmm. So I was having car troubles. I got in the car fixed a few times. Well, this particular morning, you're probably watching the news and you probably heard something like this. Excuse me, people, there's going to be a slowdown on 24 West today because there is a purple Mercury Tracer blocking the left lane of the interstate. There's some rubbernecking here, so cars, please go around, but if you can take an alternate route of Murfreesboro Road, that'll be your best option. It'll save you about 45 minutes. That was me. So
what happened?
My car just stopped, and I knew it was stopping. It was going this like you were running out of gas or something. And before I could make it to that shoulder, it stopped right then and there. And so against my better judgment with that is I should have gone ahead, bit the bullet, bought a different car when I saw the signs. But the mechanic's like, you can get about another 6 months out of it.
6 months?
That was a lot when you're broke. Absolutely. And I was like, okay, I can do that. So against my better judgment, I kind of rolled with it. And I apologize for everyone who was on I-64 going west about 20 years ago. I did that.
I have never. Well, I think you care more about cars than I do because I don't care about cars.
Oh, I do care about them.
I
get oil changes. I care about them. What do you mean?
Well, because up until this is the second car I've ever purchased. The first car I purchased on my own was in 2014, and up until then, I had only had cars that other people had given to me.
Okay, that's consistent with me because I had company cars for like 12 years of my career.
Right, but see though they gave you new cars when they gave you company cars.
Correct.
But my cars were cars that people had driven before.
Oh, God.
So I never really got. I just was like, a car is from point A to point B. Like that's all I need my cars for. So I'm not investing a whole lot in cars because a car is meant to get you from point A to point B. The car that I have
Here's
now.
the judginess though, but I just want to say I'm really feeling judged right now because nothing that I said indicated that I didn't think the same thing.
No, because you went out and bought a Jeep.
But it was a Jeep.
Because you wanted it.
88.
Exactly, which is like a collector's item. Is where I got that from. It's like you went and bought an 80 and you were like, it had square. I wanted it because it had square lights.
But you don't know if it's nostalgia to it. You don't know if my granddaddy drove a Jeep like that.
I would never be able to tell you I wanted this particular car because it had square lights. I wouldn't have even known it had square lights. I would not know the difference between square lights and round lights. See? That's just how much I don't care about cars.
And that's why you're yelling. This is what we call yelling. Use your 6-inch voice. Okay.
I'm just trying to make sure people in the back can hear me.
Wow.
So, gosh. So anyway, all that to say is the car I have now is the first car I actually bought because I really loved it. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to feel a certain way about the car that I drove. It's the first time I've ever had a car that I really love and I feel a way about it. But even to this day, I still don't. If something were to happen to it, it can go.
Well, okay. Well, I feel
I'm not going to put a whole lot into it.
Well, but here's the thing with a car, especially nowadays with tariffs, with the price of repairing vehicles. I mean, you really want the life of them to stretch. So I wouldn't be upset, but for the fact that a car nowadays. So the last car I bought was the first car I bought in decades because I've always had company cars. I didn't realize how much cars cost.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I want that. That car needs to last. Anytime a service needs to be, it needs to happen. Anything I can stretch, I want to stretch. The man told me today, he's like, ma'am, this oil change is $129. I said, for oil change? Because I was thinking okay, B1, whatever the B1 service is. I'm like, oh, okay. And then, man, we got to flush your brake lines because I'm like, how much is $185? I said, how much are brakes?
Right.
Oh, and then they're a lot. So,
because I just had to fix my brakes a couple months ago, and it wasn't cheap.
Yeah, it's incredible. My first time riding with you was today.
Was it?
Yeah, that just hit me when you took me to go pick my car.
And you made it back, didn't you?
I did.
Did you feel unsafe at all?
I did not. And I didn't really have a concern, but you kind of lay back.
I do. Yeah.
And that caught my eye. I'm like,
Are you on the wheel?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I was like, why is she trying to be cool in Nolensville? You were laid back.
I'm not a up on the wheel driver.
I'm not, but I am right here. But it reminds me of, I played golf with your husband not long ago, and him driving that golf cart.
Was he laid back?
He kept saying, this is not how I drive my car. This is not how I drive my car. That's how awful he drove that golf cart. He's like, I just want you to know, this is not. I'm like, Well, what makes you change?
Yeah, like why are we doing something different right now?
Less safe in this golf cart. This is not how I drive my truck. This is so any event. So.
Well, what did you learn from? Well, you said that you would not have put as much money into the truck. What else did you learn?
I wouldn't have. I also learned that some things, like if there's something you really want to do or you really want, put something in there to make you do it. Like I really wanted to drive a stick shift. Mm-hmm. I didn't let that stop me from wanting a Jeep, and I didn't want an automatic Jeep.
That's just not the same.
It's just not when it comes to a Jeep, in my opinion. So sometimes you give yourself these challenges. Like if you want to learn how to play the piano, sometimes you can go ahead and just buy the piano. And if you bought that piano, that tells me that you are going to learn. Like I have purchased a guitar. I've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar. So I have a guitar. And because I purchased a guitar, I have bought guitar lessons for dummies. And so I'm going to learn. So I might play y'all something one day.
You have never met a Gemini, because let me tell you something. The energy that I have in my life is I'm going to learn how to ride I'm going to get a Peloton.
I have a Peloton.
Girl, I bought that Peloton. I rode in that thing twice. And then it sat in my house for the rest of life until I was like, I'm going to sell this back because I'm not using it. I'm the exact opposite of you. The purchase of that thing is not incentive for me to learn it. If I bought a piano and I was motivated to learn it, and then just bought a piano, that piano would literally sit in my house forever and collect dust.
Well, you got me with the Peloton. When you spend that kind of money on a Peloton, that I'm going to use it.
That's not the motivator for me.
What was your motivator for buying it then?
Because I wanted to lose some weight.
Did you get on it?
I did. I told you I got on there twice.
Well, that wasn't the motivation. That was zero motivation. You need a different motivation.
So yes, you were saying that I guess for some people, the motivation is if you get the thing that'll make you do it.
You're yelling.
And for me, it is, I don't know what that is not a motivator for me. Because a Gemini is very good at starting something and never finishing.
Capricorns, if we start it, we are gonna finish. Which brings us to the end.
Yes.
The end of today. But before we go, what did you learn about your grandmother's instructions?
I learned and I'm learning to step up. Like when it's your turn, when it's your turn to be responsible, do it. I'm learning how the process plays out. Mm-hmm. I'm learning that, everybody tells you to get a will. That's great, but actually get a trust. That's better. And I'm learning a lot about other people in my family. I'll just leave it at that.
Good or bad. Wow. No, that's a lot, but thank you all for coming and spending your time with us and getting to know us better. Of course, you can hang out with us again next week and in weeks to come at Against My Better Judgment Pod on Instagram and at Against My Better Judgment Pod on Facebook.
Yeah, and if you have a story about that time when you had to all of a sudden assume a role that you weren't either prepared for or just realize that, man, it's my time to step up, or you decided out the blue you were gonna buy a guitar and take guitar lessons, hit us up. Let us know at againstmybetterjudgmentpod@gmail.com. Really appreciate you hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time.
All right.